Hey everybody, it is Tuesday, March 30th, 2021, and I am coming to you with this week's episode of Toolbox Tuesday, where I'm going to be continuing the conversation about addiction, substance abuse, and recovery. So last week I posted a little video of, it's like a montage of a bunch of different exercises that are meant to be used as coping skills that will help jumpstart that kind of dopamine kick that'll get you feeling good with some physical activity. This week, I am going to have a small little discussion about step 4 in the recovery process from the perspective of AA and NA and groups like that follow like the 12-step program. So step 1 was we admitted we were powerless over our substances and that our lives have become unmanageable. Step 2 was that we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And step 3 made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the God that we understand. Step 4 is the one that, in my experience, a lot of the folks get hung up on or have a tendency to be a little bit scared of. In like psychological terms, from the Freudian not the Freudian, but from the Jungian perspective, step 4 is really like that shadow work step. Step 4 is the one that makes you have to search deep inside yourself for all the qualities that you have and that you possess. And specifically stated in the step work, it's we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. So for people who are exiting active addiction, or for people who have a history of active addiction, who have a history of quote-unquote rock bottom, for folks who have a history of doing some pretty treacherous things or some pretty seedy, shifty things while in active addiction, this step does kind of pose a mental threat or a psychological threat, because it does really force us to look at our characters, to look at our stuff, look at what we have done, look at what we have become in the throes of active addiction. I actually think that whether or not you are someone who abuses substances, who has an addiction, or who has an addictive personality, I think that everyone should engage in step 4. We should all be taking a look at ourselves and really kind of spending time discussing with ourselves, with the people that we care about, the nature of our moral character. The reason why this is scary is because a lot of people do have to come to terms with the trauma that they've endured and the trauma that they've put other people through as a result of addiction. However, this is a really incomplete way of taking a look at this particular step. A searching and fearless moral inventory isn't just the awful things. It isn't just the lying, the stealing, the cheating, the backstabbing. It isn't just the things that you do to get your substances. It's also the grace that you possess. A searching and fearless moral inventory also includes the virtues that you hold dear. A searching and fearless moral inventory also includes the things that you do to help others. It also includes the things that you do to maintain your life at its best. A searching and fearless moral inventory also includes the things that make you resilient. It's the things that you have to be proud of. And I do really think that 12-step programs and a lot of treatment for substance abuse does not take that part of the work into consideration either. So while on the one hand, we do have to take a look at the things that we have done that are hurtful to ourselves and to other people, but in order to have a whole picture, in order to be fully reconciled, in order to even find ourselves worthy of healing and worthy of the grace of the God that we understand, we do also have to understand the things that are great about us, the things that we do right. So how can we go about doing this? What are some of the things that we can do? Well, first of all, when it comes to substance use, ask ourselves, under what conditions are we most likely to use if we don't want to? What conditions really kickstart that powerlessness. Who are the people? What do they trigger in us? Do they trigger our deep insecurities? Do they trigger a sense of failure? Do they trigger a sense of joy? Do they encourage us to seek the mysteries of life, or do they encourage us to recede into the darkness? Under what conditions are we likely to steal? Under what conditions are we likely to tell a lie? Under what conditions are we likely to say things that are harmful or hurtful to the people around us? Understanding the conditions that produce these behaviors in us will also go a long way in helping us smooth those over. Right? Once we know the conditions, we can enter those conditions on purpose and start to heal from within them. Under what conditions does our empathy get jump-started? Under what conditions does our kindness get jump-started? Under what conditions do we give more than what we have to give? Because I will say, absolutely without a doubt, 100% of the people that I have worked with who struggle with addiction have had the kindest and most purest hearts when they were not using. And a lot of times that quality was something that was targeted by others that really kind of put them in harm's way, kind of activated trauma responses. Deep sense of loyalty. What is it about someone that activates your sense of loyalty? And what is it about someone that would deactivate that loyalty? Understanding those conditions are super duper important for keeping ourselves out of harm's way when it comes to dealing with other people. Relationships are hard. And relationships are one of the things that absolutely brings someone from recovering from substance abuse to returning to active addiction. What is it about relating to other people? What is it about how you relate to other people that kind of makes it more likely for things to become problematic, hurtful, painful, where you want to go ahead and run back to something that will make you feel good pretty quickly? Because as I stated in previous Toolbox Tuesday, addiction is a thing because it makes the feel-goods happen real quick, quicker than a lot of other things. So under what conditions are you going to want to, or under what conditions is pain, suffering, going to become to the point, it's going to become such that you want to go back to something that will make you feel good super fast? Understanding that is super important for recovery. Understanding that is a part of the searching and fearless moral inventory that, once you find these out, once you find out what makes you tick, what sets you off, you can make a real good plan for entering it on purpose and healing it, or avoiding it until you become strong enough to do so. Once again, substance abuse disorders, addiction, these are not things that, people with flawed characters aren't, more likely to have an addiction. People with addictions don't have flawed characters off the cuff. This is something that develops with prolonged use and prolonged, survival mode and, prolonged or enduring experiences with trauma. So I do really think that we all can benefit from the searching, fearless moral inventory because it helps us keep our own stuff together. It helps prevent us from being enablers when there are people in our lives who are in active addiction. And I don't know, maybe you don't want to take it from me right off the bat, but I really do challenge everyone watching this video to just go ahead and take a look at yourselves. What are some of the worst things that you've ever done? Were substances involved? What are some of the best things that you've ever done? Were substances involved? Under what circumstances do you behave awfully and do you behave gracefully? Thanks for watching this episode of Toolbox Tuesday. If you want some tools to help you, I do suggest, it's coming into common practice now to use, these card type things, like some folks call them tarot cards, but really they're free associations. So this right here, these are called angel oracle cards. These are a great kind of free association to kind of help jumpstart the conversation about what excellent qualities we have. Um, or for, some of the qualities that like get passed down through our family. So for example, one of the cards in this box are parents. So what is it that we get from our parents, nurture versus nature, environment versus genetics? What do we get from our parents that make us great and phenomenal and wonderful? And what do we get from our parents that kind of represent a character flaw or something that might need to be healed? Then there's also a card in this deck that says singing and dancing. How can singing and dancing help you kind of let your guard down, get you reconnected with your body, and help give you the strength and the fortitude and the resiliency to help keep you searching for yourself? Even better, if you are a dancey type, if you are an artistic type, what kind of dance can you make out of the various graces that you discover about yourself? Or about some of the vices that you find out about yourself? There are different kinds of decks out here that, if you are interested in using these to like kind of help you with your recovery, kind of jumpstart some conversations or give you some inspiration, there are a bunch of different decks out here besides the Angel Oracle deck. Of course, there's like traditional tarot if you're into that. The other thing, or another thing that you can do, is you can just like take your favorite, a spiritual book. It could be your Bible, it could be a book of mythology, it could be a book of inspiration. And just kind of like open that up to like the Proverbs or the parables or like the lesson component and kind of see what kind of lesson pops out to you. And you can do kind of a narrative approach and put yourself directly into the story that you're reading. So a popular book that discusses like turmoil would be the book of Job. And so if you swap out Job for yourself, what are you like when you read about yourself in that situation? What are you likely to do if you go through the trials or the turmoil of Job? Another example of a story might be the Epic of Gilgamesh. That is an old story. You can find that online if you want to. They have several copies at the public library. You can get your own copy from like a bookstore or on Amazon. But if you replace yourself with any of the characters in the Epic of Gilgamesh, how do you find yourself behaving? These are great ways to kind of externalize a little bit, put some distance between yourself and some of the things that you want to find out about yourself, or takes yourself out of like some of the more problematic parts of your life, puts you in a new situation, and you can just kind of think about, well, if that were me, this is what I would do. Well, if that were you, and if that's what you would do, what does that say about your character? What does that say about your moral code? Additionally, you can take a look at some codes of ethics, and you can kind of take a look at that, see what ethics says about behavior, or how you can go about making ethical decision making, and you can determine where you agree and where you disagree. And you can kind of think about from there what that means about your ethical decision making. What does that mean about your moral code? There are plenty of tools out there that can aid in this searching, fearless moral inventory that doesn't have to keep you locked into an addict behavior, doesn't have to keep you locked into your trauma. There are several different ways that you can be psychologically flexible about your recovery from substances, about recovery from addiction. So yeah, that will be it for today. Thank you for watching. I hope you find it helpful. And if you have any questions about substance abuse, recovery, addiction, or anything like that, you can definitely contact me on Facebook. You can shoot me a message, or you can make a comment on YouTube, or you can hit me up, www.holisticwellnessandrecovery.com, and we can have a chat about it. I am accepting a few insurances now, so if you want to work with me directly, that's also an option. Telehealth is totally a thing, and I can work with anyone in New York State. Have a great week, y'all.